town. Ran into a juke joint where I heard a guitar scream. The notes were tuning blue. I was dazing in a dream. As the music played, I saw my life turn around. That was the day before love came to town.
Came to see Mary. She was doing laundry, and then the angel just appeared and she was really scared. So Gabriel was like, Mary, you're gonna have what? I can't say it good. Mary, you're gonna have a baby. You're gonna have a baby and you will call him Jesus. And then Mary was like, I'm not gonna have a baby yet. I'm only a teenager, I'm not married. Then the angel Gabriel told Joseph that Mary is not lying. You are having a new baby. And so they met up. They went to Bethlehem, which was Joseph's old town.
They ride a donkey.
I don't know.
A camel. Oh, yeah, a camel. She said, this donkey's fast. They tried to go to a hotel and
they asked the keeper for a place to stay. The keeper said,
we have no rooms. Literally, no rooms.
So Mary and Joseph walked away sadly, but then he said,
the only place here in Bethlehem that you can stay is a stable. And then he just pointed the way and they followed. When the shepherds were taking care of the sheep,
then they saw angels.
The angel said, a new baby is getting born, who is King of the Jews.
The angel were singing. Glorious.
And then the shepherd said, I think we should go there and meet him. The second, I think, said, yeah, I agree with you. And the other said, yeah, me too. They had to walk through a bunch of grass and bushes, maybe have to camp out a night. And then the wise men heard about it.
And then a star appeared.
We should probably follow that star. It's pointing down to the barn.
So maybe we should follow it. Maybe. So the wise men went to Jesus.
They gave them gifts.
A stuffed animal, like a hippo one, they have at home.
Some diapers, and some wipes, and some milk, some shoes, some Jordans.
Gold ring and Latimer.
And I don't know how I would survive in that barn. Too stinky, too crowded, and ugh.
I think he probably pooped because the room was very smelly. Thank you for coming.
He's adorable.
He's gonna be our best friend.
I love you, and you the best baby I ever seen. There, I said it.
The new baby is gonna change the world.
And I pray on Christmas that the Lord will see me through. I pray on Christmas He'll show me what to do. I pray on Christmas He'll help me understand. I pray on Christmas He'll take me by the hand. I pray on Christmas that the sick will soon be strong. I pray on Christmas the Lord will hear my song. I pray on Christmas God will lead the way. I pray on Christmas He'll get me through another day. I pray on Christmas. I pray on Christmas. I pray on Christmas He'll get me through another day. I pray on Christmas that all our problems gonna be worked out. I pray on Christmas God will show us what love's about. I pray on Christmas to do your will each day. And I pray on Christmas that I'll be with you in heaven someday. I pray on Christmas. I pray on Christmas. I pray on Christmas You'll get me through another day. I pray on Christmas that the sick will soon be strong. I pray on Christmas the Lord will hear my song. I pray on Christmas God will lead the way. I really pray on Christmas He'll get me through another day. He'll get me through another day. He'll get me through another day. He'll get me through another day.
Life is like that. Sometimes at the height of our revelries, when our joy is at its zenith, when all is most right with the world, the most unthinkable disasters descend upon us.
Kitchen, bring food for customer.
Oh, yes, it's a beautiful duck. Yes, it really is. It's but you see,
What?
It's smiling at me.
Okay? Beautiful.
Yes.
That Christmas would live in our memories as the Christmas when we were introduced to Chinese turkey. All was right with the world.
Until tonight, my heart was just half full. I'd never known the fruit which fed the soul, but now I see what may put to rest my longing, for I have seen the face of love, the grace of God, the face of love. So take my hand, knowing with it I also give my heart, wanting never to be separate again. Let eternity begin. If you were a flame, I'd allow myself to be consumed completely. Were you the wind, I would wish you to pass through me, but now I know that the sting just fails the soul, for I have seen the face of love, the grace of God, the face of
That's one of my all-time favorite Christmas songs. There's a lot more music to come. I just want to take a moment. I want us to pray together. I'd like to talk a little bit about the theme of today's service. So if you would, just bow your heads with me. Father, thank you so much. This is a beautiful time of the year. It brings back so many memories of traditions and family and love and many warm thoughts. But Lord, at the same time, we're remembering a story that changed the world, a story about inclusion, not exclusion, a story about those who are far away being brought near, and those who are outsiders being made insiders. And I pray, God, that at the heart of everything we do in our Christmas celebration, that we keep that core truth a part of not just what we believe, but what we actually practice. In Jesus' name, amen. There's this really wonderful story about a church in the Northeast that years ago, and for many years, they would put on an annual Christmas pageant. And everything about this pageant was just perfect. I mean, the timing, the lines, the delivery of lines, the sets, everything was perfect, largely because the director was a control freak. And so she just made sure that everything happened the way it was supposed to be happening. But one particular year, something better happened. You see, the church education committee decided that everybody who'd been left out, all these kids that wanted to be a part of the Christmas drama but couldn't, that this year, any child that wanted to be a part of the Christmas pageant, that parts would be found for them. Well, for this director, that was more than she could take, so she resigned in a huff. And she said, I'm done, I'm through, I quit, which was fine. Someone else took her spot. And of course, it was different. It wasn't quite the same. Wasn't everything just perfect the way it had normally been. There were 20 shepherds this year and a bunch more angels and more than 3 wise men. And so a lot of modifications were made to the drama. But one of the things that happened is that Mary and Joseph were on their way, making their way to Bethlehem, coming down the center of the aisle of the church, coming toward the front. They were listening to the director read the narration. She was reading from the Gospel of Luke. And in Luke's Gospel, in the King James, it says, Mary being great with child, is what it says. Well, the director at the last moment figured that most people really didn't understand the old Elizabethan English, so she, on the night of the actual play, decided to switch to a modern translation. So in the middle of them walking down the aisle, these 2 young kids, Mary and Joseph, she reads, Mary being pregnant. Well, Joseph hadn't heard this in practice, and all of a sudden, he just stopped dead in his track. And he said, pregnant? What do you mean pregnant? And of course, everybody started laughing. And the pastor's wife said, that's probably exactly what Joseph said, right? But what was really special is as the program kind of wrapped up, they would do Silent Night, and the whole cast would come back. And all these kids that were once excluded, they all came down to the front of the church, and they took their seats, and right in that front row was the former director, I think maybe even wishing and hoping it would flop. But now all these kids that were once excluded, they're all surrounding her. And they're singing Silent Night. And yes, it had not been like previous years. But through the windows of the church, you could see the snow begin to fall. And this elderly lady, her name was Minnie McDonald, had a habit of not wearing her hearing aid, so she talked too loud. And all of a sudden, in the middle of that, in the quietness of that moment, she said, "It's perfect. It's just perfect." And it was. It was perfect not in the way it had been perfect in years prior. It was perfect in the way God makes things perfect. That the excluded are now included. That God is a God that comes into our messiness, into our imperfection. I mean, this is what the Christmas message is all about, that God made a place for us. You know, last week, if you weren't here, I'd really encourage you to check out the message, but we talked about the reality that Ezekiel has this vision, 600 years before Christ arrives on the scene, of the very presence of God, the glory of God, leaving the house of God, abandoning the Holy of Holies, departing over a mountain, never to return. For 600 years, the temple of God is a hollow shell. It's dark. The glory of God no longer is among his people. Until this night in Bethlehem, the glory of God returns, not in Jerusalem, not in the temple, not in the Holy of Holies. He comes to the muck and the mire and the filth of a manger. And the glory of God is here. He's Emmanuel. He's God with us. He's with us in our failures. He's with us in our messiness. He's with us in our imperfections. This is what makes Christmas Christmas. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's made perfect in the way God makes things perfect by making sure all those who were once excluded are now included. Aren't you glad you've been included? Aren't you glad his love came into your life and reached down and says, "You're family now, you're part of us"? This is what God does. This is the miracle of Christmas. As I wrap up, I want to show you a number. This is a number I saw this past week, $929. You know what that is? According to the latest statistics, that's what the average American family will spend this year on Christmas. It's up about $100 from last year, so consumer confidence is higher now than it was last year. $929. To give you an idea of what that means, is this year Americans will spend about $450 billion. That's B with a B. $billion on Christmas. You know what it would take to solve the world's water problem? You know that there are many places in the world still where people are dying just for a lack of clean water. It takes $20 billion a year. We're going to spend $450 billion on Christmas. It only takes $20 billion to solve the crisis of clean potable water for the world so that people could just live. You know, if these statistics are true, in our congregation, the number of people, the number of families that call Springcreek home, what that means for our church, if we're spending that kind of money, is we'll spend a little over $1 million this year. Just Springcreek. Think of how a fraction of that could change the world. Do you ever have regrets about how you spend your money? Man, I do. I've been the king of misspending. You know, now I'm a grandpa. I've got all kinds of excuses to misspend. I'm walking down the aisle of a store, and last year at Christmas, I saw these life-size Minnie Mouses. I thought, well, of course, Rosalie has to have this, right? Has to. It's a need. It's not a want. It's a need. So I buy it. You know, I paid, $50, $60 for the thing. I bring it home, and she plays with it one day. And it sets as this huge thing. I'm selling it real cheap today, by the way. Just, no. But I have regrets, and I have a lot of spending regrets. A lot of things that I bought for myself and for others, I think, why'd I waste the money? Let me show you my biggest regrets. Here's one. Now, that house is actually not crooked. I took this off of Google Street View, and so it looks like the house is falling down, but it's not. It's a house I bought out in the greens, and this was, I don't know how many years ago now. I bought it because I thought we needed a bigger house. We were in 1,800 square feet. This was 3,600 square feet. And you know what? We doubled our square footage, and we doubled our house payment, and we doubled our taxes, and we doubled our insurance, and we doubled our expenses. And it was 3 years later when I sold it, it was the happiest day of my life. It was like, we didn't need that. That was silly. It was a waste of money. I'll never get back what I overspent for 3 years just trying to maintain a place I really didn't need. Here's another regret I have. You see this? It's beautiful, isn't it? That's exactly what the devil told me when I bought it. He said, it's beautiful. You have to have it. You know, one of my first cars was an old 74 Chevy. This is a 76 Corvette. This is what was popular when I first started driving, and I thought, man, I can get one. It was only $12,000. Insurance is cheaper. All these wonderful lies I told myself about this Corvette. And you know what I discovered is you couldn't work on this like you worked on the old Novas. Everything on a Corvette is proprietary, so you have to have a special mechanic do it, and it was just money after money. And 2 years later when I sold it, I said, okay, God, I've learned my lesson. Practical cars from now on, this was a total waste, and I'll never get that money back. I spent money needlessly. Here's a third picture I'll show you. This is the only picture I got at my pool, and it's no longer, it's gone. Bought a house with a pool, and you know, this was Satan's swamp right there, and the pump was the Antichrist. And every weekend I was out there in the summer just taking my wallet and just dumping it into that pool as I maintained that thing. I'm not mechanical. I'd lose my religion when I was working on it. When we tore it out, it was the happiest day of my life. I have wasted money. I've spent money on myself that I've regretted. But let me tell you about money I've never regretted spending. This first picture, this is Carolina Kiniakov. For 10 years, I've been her sponsor, Dad. This is the day I took my running medals to her that I'd run the Chicago Marathon. I said, listen, I may have run the race, but you really won. I want you to have these. It's a beautiful thing. Here's another child of mine. This is Frederick Amundi. He's a beautiful boy. I've been sponsoring him for about 8 years. I don't regret a dime that I spent. I was able to send money enough one year that they could buy a cow, and it literally lifted their family out of poverty. Here's the third regret I don't have. This is Sibale. Sibale lives in the South African nation of Swaziland. I've been to her home. I've been in her home. I've helped to provide her clothes so that she could go to school, a bed because she didn't have a bed to lie on. I don't regret a dime I've spent on these kids. Here's something we've done as a church. These next two slides, this is a water project. As a church, we raised over $300,000 to bring water to a community that was lacking the ability just to go get a drink and survive and to live and be healthy. And we spent $300,000 on that, and I don't have a single regret about spending that money. Here's something else I don't regret. Do you remember this shot? It happened the day after Christmas last year. We had spent the month of December raising enough money to begin this project in Ecuador. You dug deep. We sacrificed. We raised $100,000 in 4 weeks' time for Ecuador. And then the day after Christmas, after we'd given our all, this tornado came into this community. 6 of our families in our church lost everything. Another dozen lost a lot of things, had a lot of damage to their house. We had friends, we had connections, and in the next couple of weeks, we raised $20,000, and we began to pour it into the lives of those people in any way that we could make a difference. I don't regret a dime of that money, do you? How about this one? This is a community called Santa Lucia. Santa Lucia is a dump outside the largest city in Brazil, Brasilia, its capital. It's the largest dump in all of Latin America. I've been to this community twice. There's a group of women there that work all day long just scavenging through the trash to collect recyclables to earn $2 a day. Our students in this church raised $25,000 last year that went into this community to invest in those women, to start businesses so that they didn't have to spend their day having to go out to the dump and collect trash, but instead could have a business in their community to make a difference. I don't regret a dime of that money, do you? How about this? This is a place that exists not far from here, about 10 minutes away. It's Kaiser Street, Missionary Baptist Church, called Kaiser Street City of Life. The pastor there today is celebrating 5 years in their ministry. He and I have been friends for almost that entire 5 years. Milton and I have discussed what it means to do church as the kingdom of God, not just as our own little entity, just looking out for ourselves, but how do we look out for one another? This is their building, their old building, a building that was in disrepair, a building that you couldn't go into. And he said, we have a vision to turn this building into a place that could serve our community. And I said, Milton, I love that vision. How can we work together? For 3 years, we've been working together. Guy Lawson's been leading this project. 2 weeks ago, we got our green tag for the building. Here's what it looks like today. I don't have a single regret. I don't have a single regret about investing in our brothers and sisters in this community who want to make a difference like we do. And then I have a series of pictures for you. This is when I was last in Ecuador, and I was out in La Violeta. There's a group of young people. They've been pushed to the very margins of society. They are the excluded ones. The indigenous people of Ecuador live in subsistence. They get inferior education. Nothing about their life is easy. Everything about it is hard. There's even young Afro-Ecuadorians there. There are young people from places like Colombia, which is just absolutely torn up with violence, who have escaped and are refugees in La Violeta. And your money, your sacrifice last year, the money you've given this year is making a difference for these young people. And I tell you what, I will never regret one dime that I spend to make a difference in the life of a young person like that. The excluded are being included. So I just want to challenge you. My wife and I, when we saw $929 going to be spent on Christmas by the average family, we said, that's our goal. We're going to give $1,000 this year to Ecuador. We want to do that. We want to love our neighbor like we love ourselves. I want to bless them. And I just want to challenge you. Maybe you could do that. Maybe you can't. Maybe you just consider giving 10% less away in terms of gifts so that you could give 10% more this year to Ecuador to make a difference. That you would say, you know, it takes so very little. We spend so much on Christmas. We give gifts that are forgotten in a week. What if instead of just doing all of that, what if we cut back just a little so that we made sure those who are not at the table have a place at the table? That those who are on the outside are brought to the inside. That those who are excluded feel included. So I want to challenge you, between now and the end of the year, give as much as you possibly can to make a difference. Our goal is to raise $100,000 by the end of this year so that we can continue this work that we're doing in Ecuador. I hope that you'll respond to that. I'll tell you one more thing. We've got these T-shirts. This is the last weekend you're ever going to see them. We're going to box up what remains, even if we don't sell them. We're going to box them up. We're going to take them to Ecuador. We're going to give them to the World Vision staff and to the community members in La Violeta. Many of you have already bought hundreds of T-shirts and said, listen, I don't need it for myself. I'm buying it to send there. This weekend, we've reduced the price to $10. Now, when I told Kathy, our bookstore manager, I wanted to do that, she said, Pastor, people are going to get mad at you because they just paid $15 last week and they paid $30 last year. And I said, what does it matter? All the money's going to Ecuador. It's not like we're making money on this stuff. We're giving it away. And if you are just that tore up, blame me, not Kathy. This was my idea to say one last time, one last push. If you want to give $10, buy yourself, buy a family member a T-shirt, do that. If you want to give $100 to send 10 T-shirts to Ecuador, then do that. This is going to be the last weekend we have that. This is just a small supplement. We sell all these T-shirts, we've raised $20,000. Even if we don't, I believe the sacrifice that this kind of church practices on a regular basis can make a difference in this world, because you know what? We know the miracle of being included. So God bless you. There's a lot more great songs. We're going to let the band come back at this time and lead us in some more.
I'm sure he must have been surprised at where this road had taken him. 'Cause never in a million lives would he have dreamed of Bethlehem. And standing at the manger, he saw with his own eyes the message from the angel come to life. And Joseph said, why me? I'm just a simple man of trade. Why him of all the rulers in the world? And why here inside this stable filled with hay? Why her? She's just an ordinary girl. And now I'm not one to second guess what angels have to say, but this is such a have come as he deserved. There would have been no Bethlehem, no lowly shepherds at his birth. But Joseph knew the reason love had to reach so far. And as he held the Savior in his arms, he must have thought, why? I'm just a simple man of trade. Why him with all the rulers in the world? Oh, why here inside this stable filled with hay? Why her? She's just an ordinary girl. And now I'm not one to second guess what angels have to say. But this is such a strange way to save the world. Oh, this is such a strange way to save the world. Oh, this is such a strange way to save the world. To save the
Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he was grinchily humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. He paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But this sound wasn't sad. What? This sound sounded glad. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet, ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more.
of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining till He appeared, and the soul felt its worth. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. For on your name, oh yeah, the angel voices, oh night divine, oh night when Christ was born. Truly, He taught us to love one another. His law is love, and His gospel is peace. Chains shall He break, for the slave is our brother, and in His name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus praise we with all our hearts. We praise His holy name. Christ is the Lord. Oh, praise His name forever. His power and glory, for more proclaim His power and glory, told me, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, a newborn king to see, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. Our finest gifts we bring, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, to lay before the king, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum, rum-pa-pum-pum. So to honor him, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum, when we come.
Wow. Bet you can count on one finger how many churches are having a drum solo this morning. as a part of their worship service. John, you're amazing. You know, usually he's kind of tucked back in there to kind of mute the sounds a little bit, so I'm glad that he got an extra foot today to kind of be seen, but God bless you, John. And, you know, these musicians, these singers, how about that? Can we show a little appreciation for them? You know, every week they offer their talents before the Lord, and we're just so blessed to have them. And I never want to take that for granted. Not too many churches have what we have, and we are extremely, extremely grateful. But there's other people here that you don't notice. In fact, that's a part of their job. They don't want to be noticed because they figure if you notice them, they're not doing their job. They're the people that run camera and lyrics and sound and lyrics upstairs and lighting. Yeah. They make these weekend experiences wonderful, and we deeply appreciate that you serve behind the scenes, but you serve so well every week. And you know, there's a group of people, they're not hearing your applause, and they're back there and they're taking care of our kids, and they give 100%, the best of the best, every single week to make sure your kids have a good experience. So since they didn't hear your applause, tell them, okay, on your way out. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up here with one final song. Before we do, I want to remind you, we do have an annual business meeting. We have it once a year. It happens in December. It's happening about 15 minutes after this last service closes. So about 12:45, we'll be back in here. If you're a member of the church, of course, you have a voting right. If you're not a member, you're welcome to come and participate to see what's going on. We're not trying to hide anything at all. But that's happening at 12:45. Please be sure to go get your kids first before you come back. But we're glad you're here. There are some extra tables for these Ecuador t-shirts. They're in the back of the auditorium today, as well as out in the hallway. But I hope that you will sincerely and prayerfully dig deep this year to make sure that the excluded feel very included in our hearts and in the love of God. We got one more song, and you got to be on your feet for this. This is the last song of Mariah Carey's album, and it's called Jesus, What a Wonderful Child. And it's just the kind of song you can't sit down on and enjoy, so you got to be up. If you can sing along, feel free to sing along. If you want to clap, clap. If you're clapping impaired, just nod your head, okay? But just have a good time. Merry Christmas to you all. So glad that you included us this weekend. God bless you.